Well, if you can call anything a spur of the moment thing, it'd be this one. This was something we didn't even plan to do right away. It was just something that we ended up doing for today anyway. This was planned, but this was just something that wasn't really like solidified, and now here it is. So this is not the last time you will see these two directors in the next month or so.
Yeah, this is the second time I've seen PTA now because of Magnolia.
Yep. And don't think you won't see Bogey again, potentially, somewhere down the line, very soon. So, this is an interesting battle. And given the fact that today is the Golden Globes, I don't think you have that information in front of you, but from what I remember, both of these movies did fairly well at the Globes.
Yeah, Predator and Madre did well. We were wondering about that. I looked it up. And
Good.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if the Globes were around in 48, but they were.
Good. So now we're going to see what happens when the treasure of the Sierra Madre faces There Will Be Blood. AJ, take it away.
Anybody who's like... I would say whoever happens to be watching this has seen both movies.
I would say so.
I suppose it's worth mentioning every now and then in case we get new people coming in. Obviously, Versus is extremely spoilery.
Yes.
Just to throw that out there. Secondly, if you haven't seen one or the other, I would say it's reasonable to wonder how they're paired together.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you've seen There Will Be Blood and know enough about it, you know that Treasure of the Sierra Madre was like, apart from Kubrick, was PTA's big inspiration with There Will Be Blood. So much so that he supposedly watched the movie every single night while he was making There Will Be Blood.
Wow.
Like before he went to, that was like his ritual. Like he'd do the movie, then he'd come home, and before bed he'd watch the movie again.
So you have new ideas fresh for the next morning.
And that further is gone into by Daniel Plainview's voice. Is Daniel Day-Lewis doing an impression of John Huston, who is the director of The Treasure of Sierra Madre.
Nice.
And both movies are about guys who were... I don't know if... We never really get a sense of how Daniel Plainview was before he got rich, because this... It was very interesting. It was a big deal when it came out too. The first 15 minutes of There Will Be Blood has no dialogue.
Yeah.
We only see what he does by his actions. But he's clearly, wants to be rich because he's, out there working and doing all the... whatever the fuck it is they were doing. It's been a while since I saw There Will Be Blood. I'm doing it on memory. I watched Treasure of Sierra Madre recently, so it's a little easier. But, we get a sense he might be a good person because he adopts HW. He finds... HW is just a baby at the time, and he just finds him there.
Yeah.
And takes him in and raises him to be his little sidekick.
Yeah.
So his mini-me, basically.
Nice.
Which was the subject of a lot of jokes back in the day.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which I would go into, but it's definitely a you had to be there thing.
Still is on to this day. We'll just go with that.
But how these people went from nothing and became monsters by greed.
Yeah, of course.
So this was the thing about Bogart and Treasure of Sierra Madre is he was known for like Casablanca and To Have and Have Not and the Lauren Bacall movies, basically the Big Sleep, all those, where he's like this Maltese Falcon, another John Huston movie. He was the suave good guy that was, managed to, had a way with women and stuff like that, and made the cigarette famous in movies, basically.
Like the George Clooney of his generation.
Yeah. And when he took on this part, he basically plays this... Most people call him a villain.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a good guy.
But he's not a bad guy either.
Well, yeah, he is.
Well,
it takes a while to get. I mean, he's a very deceptive person. Like
okay.
we get an immediate, like, even when he was poor, he was greedy because he has this for a while, we're not really sure, or maybe I'm just slow. Uh, we're not really sure if he's greedy or just, just needs money.
Mm.
But then we get this particular scene where, like, he's going around and he's, like, asking people for change. Like, he's saying, can you help an American get a meal or something? So he gets money from this one guy and he goes and he gets a meal. But then we learn that that isn't enough, apparently. So he goes up to another guy. It actually ends up being the same guy. But we don't know if we never really learn if he was doing it on purpose or if he, like, knew it was the same guy every time and he was just doing that. But so he's already asked for money and gone and gotten the meal. So he goes up again and says, could you help an American get a meal? I'm starving. And he takes the money and he goes and gets a shave next. So that immediately tells you that he's got that personality of just having one thing isn't enough for him. He's got to have as much as he can. So then he meets this guy Curtin, who is also just kind of drifting around. And then they meet this guy McCarthy, who offers them a job. They ask him for money, and then he offers them a job instead. So they go off and they work for him. And then he won't pay them. He just keeps saying, "Oh, the money's coming. Don't worry, I haven't been paid yet either." And then finally they're getting on the boat, and they say, "We need our money." He says, "Oh, as soon as the boat docks, I promise you'll get your money." And then the boat docks, and he still says, "Oh, the money's coming. I'll get it to you eventually." And then they go to the bar, and they learn that this McCarthy guy is actually, like, just a con artist that is known for not paying people. Mm-hmm. So they find him eventually and beat the holy shit out of him. And that basically is kind of I would say, they don't really come out and flat out say this, but I would say that is what leads Bogart's character to do the things that he does in the movie, because he's normally the one that likes to outsmart people, and it, like, really, really gets to him that he was outsmarted by this guy. So he is absolutely hell-bent and bound and determined to never be fooled by anybody again. And that's what causes him he eventually erupts into this paranoid, delusional psychopath as the movie progresses.
Yeah.
And I think like I said, he was already greedy, but I think the point of this particular run-in with this McCarthy guy is what makes him who he is as the movie goes on.
Okay.
And then they go into this. I don't know. I suppose it's that place's equivalent of a homeless shelter. It's just those places that you go when you, like, just stay the night.
Yeah.
And they meet Walter Huston, who is John Huston's dad. Who I didn't go through the nominations and wins, but
you could do that in a minute.
Walter Huston won supporting actor for this. He is a prospector who is telling them about gold in the mountains of the Sierra Madre. So the three of them decide to go off on that journey to find the gold, and that's where shit goes down.
What did they both win, and what were they nominated for? Since this is an Oscar versus.
It got 4 nominations. And this is really weird to think about now, especially the way things work nowadays. Walter Huston won Best Supporting Actor. It won Best Adapted Screenplay. John Huston won Best Director. The only other nomination it got that didn't win was Picture.
Ooh.
It lost to Olivier's Hamlet. And we might as well talk about the obvious thing here, now that I've gone through the nominations. Bogart got snubbed.
Yeah.
Which is really insane when you look back on it, especially... This is the frustrating thing. When you look at the Best Actor lineup of 1940, I don't know if it's because they were thrown off, because this isn't the Bogart they were used to at all. Mm-hmm. This was scruffy, I'm gonna fucking kill you Bogart, and not the suave ladies' man Bogart.
Yeah.
The crazy thing is when you look at the 1948 Best Actor lineup, it's really weak.
So he easily could have gotten in, and you still don't. No one understands why he did.
Well, he won for The African Queen only 3 years later, so that might have had I mean, the fact that he didn't win for Casablanca probably had a lot to do with that too. But I think I think him not winning for Casablanca is a much smaller deal than the fact that he got completely snubbed for this. Because this character is kind of fucking scary, actually. And you really just don't expect that from him. Like I said, nowadays we embrace that. Back then, that might have been repellent to them.
It's possible.
Because it was something they weren't used to, and it threw them off.
Change was not good back in the day.
Yeah, the best actor lineup had, like, Lou Ayres for Johnny Belinda, who is fucking supporting, by the way. Clifton Webb for Sitting Pretty. Who, Mr. Belvedere?
Yeah, of course.
Clifton Webb played Mr. Belvedere in Sitting Pretty. And he got in, Mr. fucking Belvedere got in over Fred C. Dobbs, who he reminds us of Billy. Once he gets, the more psychopathic he gets, the more he starts to speak in the third person. So you always hear him calling himself Fred C. Dobbs.
That's awesome.
If the movie were made nowadays, the line would probably be, nobody fucks with Fred C. Dobbs.
Probably.
Then we have Walter Huston, who has the... I'll go into Curtin in a second. Here's the thing about Walter Huston.
Okay.
Who, he'd already, he'd already been this big name before John even became a director. Before John was, like, really big as a director. Because he had, like, Dodsworth and The Devil and Daniel Webster, which he's really awesome in. Even though he got nominated in leading and was supporting, but regardless.
Seems like that happens a lot.
Yeah. Back in the day, you think it happens a lot now. It happened way too much back in the day. I'm going to say back in the day a lot with it being fucking 1948.
Understandable.
Here's the thing about how good Walter Huston is in the Treacher Theater Madre. He was basically just doing his performance.
Mm.
Okay. And you'd think maybe there'd be something... If I didn't know ahead of time, like before seeing the movie, I would have thought, I wonder how a performance by a father will come out being directed by his son.
Yeah.
And wondering how that works. Walter Huston's performance is so showy and so good that Warner Brothers actually started to send notes to John Huston saying, your dad needs to calm his performance down because he's upstaging Bogart.
Ooh, wow.
So the greatness of his performance is not even totally seen in the movie because Warner Brothers said we need to tone it down so Bogart's not upstaged. So, and then the other main character is Curtin, who is this friend, I guess, of Dobbs. But the thing about him is he's basically Dobbs' opposite because he's not like... Dobbs is like completely corruptible.
Okay. Whereas
Curtin is more incorruptible.
Okay.
And he's, he never gets paranoid or greedy or anything. There's actually a scene in the movie where Bogart is like stuck in this hole that's caving in. And naturally, this is after they found the gold. They find the gold fairly early. It's a matter of getting, out of the mountains without killing each other over it.
Of course.
So really, the smart thing to do would be to let Bogart die. Because then you're splitting the gold 2 ways instead of 3 ways.
Yeah, of course.
But because Curtin is the kind of person that he is, he saves Dobbs. And Dobbs repays him later by shooting him twice and leaving him for dead.
What a jam-up guy.
But Curtin survives, though. Barely. There's a point in time, there's a lot of those scenes, you can tell a lot of scenarios in other movies were inspired by this movie. This is the movie that is famous for the scenario of after a while Walter Huston gets separated from them and goes off with this tribe or whatever.
Okay.
So it's just Dobbs and Curtin. And obviously Curtin's the one that's like, you know what, nothing's going to go wrong. I'm not going to steal anything, everything's all right. And Dobbs is the one that's saying, I know Curtin's going to fuck me over. I just, the McCarthy incident's really in his head now. He's not going to be fucked over by anybody, and he's going to make sure that happens, no matter if it's, killing people. So there's that moment where they're sitting by the fire, and they're looking at each other from across of it. across from it, and it's the game of who's gonna fall asleep first.
Oh yeah.
Then there's the moment where Dobbs has the his stash of gold hidden under a rock, so nobody will steal it from him, and we don't see it happen. We just Curtin tells us. This is another way where we get a sense of Curtin's character, and it brings Dobbs out into the open a little more too. He sees a Gila monster go under the rock supposedly, and he says, what are you looking under that rock for? That's my hiding place. Are you searching for my gold? And he's like, no, I just saw a Gila monster go under there, and I wouldn't reach under there because if those things bite you, you're gonna die. Of course, Dobbs thinks he's lying.
Of course.
So they turn the rock over, and there actually is a Gila monster under there. So that tells us that Curtin is the honest one, and Dobbs is the crazy one, basically. Yeah. The thing about this is, and there's a couple of great moments involving, the gold actually looks like sand. Like, Walter Huston's character is like an expert on this and says, obviously, he gives a really great speech, a great dialogue that's really well written about how basically gold likes to hide itself. Mm. So it doesn't look like the shiny gold that we know it as until it's like processed by other people. Yeah. It's like a whole other thing. So they've just got to take what looks like sand to those people and it'll look more like actual gold. But it is gold even though it looks like sand. So eventually the big payoff of the whole movie is these bandits that keep following them, these murderous bandits that'll like kill you just to take your shit. The bandits that are led by the guy that says the badge is the line that everybody knows.
Yes.
Yeah, both these movies have a very famous quote. That's another way they compare. In a shocking bit, I would have loved to have seen the reaction when people first saw this, because it grabbed me off guard. Even though he's playing basically the villain of the story, with a good 15 minutes left of the movie, there's still a good 15 minutes left to go. Bogart has separated himself from everybody and has the gold and all the horses and the hides and all that. And he goes to get water out of like a small lake, and he sees the reflection of the bandits behind him. With 15 minutes left of the movie, the bandits hack Bogart to death with a machete and take the gold. But alas, they think the gold is just bags of sand and throw them to the wind. And then a windstorm happens and the gold is completely gone. And then there's the great moment where we learn, some people like to say it's the actual treasure that the title refers to. The way Walter Huston's character is obviously he's really old and life experienced and just takes the joy out of it. Like a famous scene is the scene where he dances just because. Because he's just so fucking happy with life because he's seen everything before and now he's just enjoying what he has left. We learned that Bogart is dead and the gold is gone. And they went through all of this trouble. And Walter Huston's character just breaks into hysterical laughter.
Nice.
And then they go their separate ways, and the movie just ends on that. Now, as far as the like the way the movie is, how it's crafted, I have to say I'm not totally on board with this, unfortunately. Maybe if I see it more. I've only seen it a couple of times. But a lot of people consider John Huston's direction of this to be like some of the best direction of all time. Okay. Like one of the best directed movies you'll ever possibly find. And that also goes into the pacing. Like the way the story is structured and written, which he also wrote it, obviously. Yeah. It's, by the way, worth noting that this was the first time, it's happened, I think it's happened since a time or two, but this was the first time in Oscar history that a father and son won on the same night for the same movie.
That's awesome.
And John won too for directing and writing. The movie is 2 hours and 6 minutes, but the pacing is like totally impeccable. It just goes by. But the thing about, and that's kind of where where you can start comparing it with There Will Be Blood is, as far as pacing is concerned, obviously pacing is kind of, I mean, it's not like, oh, I can't wait for this to end. It's just, nobody likes a pokey movie.
Yeah, of course.
Joe Sierra Madre is kind of this, it's not much of an epic story, but it manages to have that pace, whereas There Will Be Blood, as great as it is, the pacing is really slow. But the movie is kind of on an epic scale. So I'm not quite sure how that would be criticized or analyzed.
Interesting way to put it.
Because the lightning speed of this really is an asset, but it's not an epic movie per se. So I guess that. So I guess maybe it's okay that There Will Be Blood is a little slow sometimes. Because it's on a grander scale. I don't know.
You want to talk about both of their award pedigrees for the Oscars?
I don't remember all of There Will Be Blood's nominations off the top of my head. But I can tell you that it was nominated for picture, PTA was nominated for director and adapted screenplay. And it won, Daniel Day-Lewis won Best Actor, which was like the biggest log since God knows what. And it also won cinematography. I'm sure it got plenty of tech nominations.
It won leading in cinematography. It was nominated for Best Picture, Best Directing, Best Adapted Screenplay, Editing, Art Direction, and Sound Editing.
Yeah, some people people tend to have a love-hate relationship with the Greenwood score. It's just one of those, like, it failed to get a nomination, obviously. It's one of those ones where it's you either have people praising it or people thought it was really fucking weird and out of place and annoying. I think it works. It adds to the movie kind of has an eerie tone to it. The score really brings to it. So as I was saying, There Will Be Blood starts with this, and you get that Kubrick feel immediately because you have the score that almost sounds like a siren as we see like the really vast sets and all that. And then it goes into that 15-minute segment where it's just them working and him finding HW and all that with just no dialogue except for like the guy screaming. And the scene where Plainview breaks his leg and actually manages to pull himself out of the hole and keep working with his broken leg, which basically shows you the relentlessness of his character and how that's going to evolve into maybe something not so positive as the movie goes on.
I think.
So he meets Paul Dano, who basically tells him where there's like a no pun intended, a gold mine of oil. Not so much a pun as a no reference intended, or maybe there is. So he goes out there and meets with Paul's family, and he meets Paul's brother Eli, who is also Paul Dano.
Yep.
Some people have theories that there was no Paul, and it was Eli fucking with him. But I think there are a couple of scenes that are talked about that kind of put that theory to rest and make it not true, but I don't remember. It's been a while. It's always fun to have theories, though.
Of course.
So, basically the plot goes from there. Eli is this preacher who's, for lack of a better term, off his damn rocker.
Yeah.
And he wants to have money to build a church. So he wants involved in the stuff that Plainview is doing. So he has this oil well that he has just, built. And they make a deal, and Eli says, I want you to let me bless the well.
Yeah.
And be part of the ceremony. And Plainview's like, fine, whatever. Wouldn't you love to see Plainview actors say, fine, whatever.
Be entertaining.
This is my son HW. What the fuck ever. But this little ceremony happens. And by the way, apparently this big monologue that Plainview gives was ad-libbed by Daniel Day-Lewis, as to my understanding.
Okay, that's awesome.
And of course, Eli gets snubbed and gets shut out of the ceremony and does not bless the will. Which some people say may be the cause of HW's accident that causes him to go deaf.
It's possible.
Once again, you gotta love theories. Theories are always fun.
Yes, they are.
But then we get this, after a while, There Will Be Blood's another one of those movies I was talking about where, it's not like The Social Network or anything where it's constant great scenes, but There Will Be Blood's 2 hours and 37 minutes or so is filled with fantastic, memorable scenes.
Definitely.
Long scenes, too. Particularly this scene where, the oil's on fire. Which a lot of people credit that scene alone is what got the cinematography win. Then there's this whole subplot that comes in where Kevin J. O'Connor plays a character that poses as he poses as Plainview's brother. And this scene has always had me thinking because obviously we as the audience know immediately that this character's full of shit.
Mm-hmm.
Because they've never met. And secondly, by the way, it also adds that scene where not many people... He says he's his half-brother. So people aren't sure whether or not it's supposed to be funny when he actually says to Daniel Plainview, I'm your brother from another mother. To this day, nobody knows if that's supposed to be funny or not. PTA's got that kind of sense of humor. It probably was.
I'm sure it was.
So I can just see him, like, writing, just saying, wouldn't it be great if he said that? I always picture, like, PTA being like Tarantino when he writes. So, and of course, the point I was getting to, the thing that has me thinking about this scene is we as the audience know that he's full of shit immediately.
Mm-hmm.
But Daniel Plainview being the, basically this smart person that he is, the smart businessman that he is, you'd think he too would know immediately that this guy's full of shit, but he seems to fall right into it.
Mm-hmm.
But the question remains as to whether or not maybe he was actually fooled by the guy, or maybe he knew the whole time. But it's a while into this story before there's finally the scene where they're by the campfire, and Plainview wakes him up and asks him a question about his childhood, asks him about his father's house or something. And when the guy hesitates to answer, Plainview shoots him point blank in the head. For lack of a better term, putting that to rest. Then there's the scenes that also show where Plainview is evolving into this monster, and they're just little scenes thrown throughout, and they're all dialogue. Like the scene where he's confronting the guy in the restaurant and he said something, or no, in his office or something, I can't remember where, but the scene where he basically tells the guy, I'm going to come into your house tonight while you're sleeping and cut your throat.
Yes.
And then there's the big dialogue. This dialogue is so great, it was actually one of the first trailer for the movie, I think, was just this piece of dialogue with scenes going by. The scene that's basically Plainview where he's giving the big monologue and he says the line, I hate most people.
Yeah.
And then it ends with him laughing this really sinister laugh. That laugh that's actually it kind of reminded me of the laugh in Dread of the Sierra Madre, the scene where Bogart says, let's see which one of us falls asleep first. Bogart gives a laugh that reminded me a lot of that one.
I'm sure
this
that
one
was
reminded
on
me of
purpose.
that one. And of course, another great scene is the baptism of Daniel Plainview by Eli.
Yes.
There's the scene. Okay, let me talk about that for a second. A lot of people love to give him shit. I think Paul Dano is amazing in this movie.
Completely.
I really fucking love Paul Dano in this movie. Because he's just so fucking out there, and he's got to match Daniel Day-Lewis. Not only that, Daniel Day-Lewis giving one of the best performances of all time.
Yeah.
One of the craziest motherfuckers in movie history. And he's got to match that. And the thing about it that makes it really impressive, what you realize, is obviously he's Daniel Day-Lewis. He spent like a year preparing to play Daniel Plainview.
Yeah.
Paul and Eli actually weren't supposed to be twins. Paul Dano was going to play Paul, and somebody else was going to play Eli. But the person that was going to play Eli had to back out for some reason. And with like a week of preparation, Paul Dano prepared to play Eli also. Yeah, it was the character that we see throughout the movie that he had a week to prepare for, not the 5-minute character at the beginning that he also played. So that makes it all the more impressive. And I love the scene with the where Eli heals the woman with arthritis and does the big spectacle. And then he's doing the thing where he's just standing outside the church and thanking people for coming and all that. And then Daniel's just standing in the back and he saw the whole thing, and he just says, he asks Daniel, you know, how he felt about the church and all that. And Daniel just says, well, that was one goddamn hell of a show. And the Bastard from the Basket scene where he just reaches the lowest of the low in morality, and HW is talking about how he's going to get married, and he's going to basically start his own company. Of course, any father would slap him on the back and say, good for you, go get him, Tiger, and all that. Daniel Plainview proceeds to tell him that this makes you my competitor, and then proceeds to tell him that he is not his real son and that he's adopted and, as he says, is a bastard from the basket.
Yes.
Which he proceeds to repeat until HW leaves in shame. And we never see HW again, but we can probably assume, you know, he did. Oh, yes, that also brings us to the other Daniel Plainview's disintegrating morality when he abandoned HW on the train when he was still a kid.
Yeah.
And just sent him off to God knows where. And then there's the great scene where they're reunited and HW fucking slaps him. Okay. I've been waiting to talk about this. There'll Be Blood's last scene is one of the greatest movie scenes of all time.
Totally agree.
This long 16-minute scene in a bowling alley. The bowling alley in the basement of Daniel Plainview's house. Which I really... Oh my god, I really wish this could have happened. It would have looked so fucking awesome. But, that mansion that they filmed in was getting ready to be bought by somebody. So they couldn't mess with it too much. But if that weren't the case... obviously, he was doing Kubrick when he made this movie. One of Kubrick's trademarks is all white rooms.
Yes.
Like you have the kitchen in The Shining. You have the room that Alex murders that woman in A Clockwork Orange. You have the bathroom in Full Metal Jacket. As an ode to Kubrick, PTA's original plan was to have this bowling alley painted completely white. That would have made this scene so insanely awesome. Yeah. I mean, it's already there, but I mean that just would have just completely added to the Kubrick feel and would have been amazing, especially with the way the scene ends. The all-white room with Eli's head bleeding out. Can you imagine what that would have looked like?
Incredible.
Oh my god! But alas, that's just a dream now. We have to let it go and take the scene for the awesomeness that it already is.
Correct.
And just the greatness of this scene. I didn't get to see this movie with a crowd. When I saw it in theaters, there was only it was a big theater in Huntington, but there were only 3 other people in it. And I was towards the back. But I heard if you watch this scene with a crowd, it's amazing. Because the way this scene progresses is just so gut-wrenchingly disturbing, but amazing. Reports that I heard from people who saw it with crowds go like this. Daniel does the big drainage speech and tells him about how Paul's successful and Eli was the reject. And then he does the big I drink your milkshake scene. He does the "I drink it up," and then Eli screams, "Don't bully me, Daniel," which causes Plainview to scream, grab Eli, and throw him down the bowling alley. And then he does the "I am the third revelation" thing, just really, really just going balls out with this character in the best possible way.
Yes.
This scene is just what really completely throws Daniel Plainview into one of the greatest movie characters ever. And there's this, he starts to pick up bowling balls and he's throwing them at Eli. And this scene is hysterical in the most absurd way. So Eli is now back behind the bowling alley, and Daniel is picking up bowling pins and throwing them at him. And you keep seeing them like pop in and out of the back as he's throwing them at them, as Eli's begging for his life and saying like, "We're brothers," you know. Apparently this scene got a huge laugh, and everybody was just, you know, on the floor laughing, just because this scene is so off the wall absurd and over the top in all of its amazingness. And everybody's just having a blast. And then finally Daniel picks up the bowling pin and runs after Eli and smacks him over the head the first time, and Eli just drops to the ground. The theater went fucking silent.
Yeah.
And then Daniel hits him 2 or 3 more times, and just fucking kills him. Drops it, and when his butler comes down to check on him, he's just sitting there in the bowling alley with Eli bleeding out and says, "I'm finished." And the movie ends. Oh my god, that fucking scene is amazing.
Yes, it is quite incredible.
Oh my god. God bless PTA for, not just the movie, God bless PTA for giving us that scene alone. That scene would have worked as an amazing short. It would have been one of the best things ever made.
Very true. Not
to mention the great movie it's attached to. That just happens to have some slow parts every now and then. So I think I basically said everything I need to say about both movies. I know classics are classics, and they are the way they are.
Yeah.
And, you know, Treasure of Sierra Madre is a lot of the reason why we have There Will Be Blood. Mm-hmm. Because PTA basically did his own thing. He went totally off the novel that it's based off of. But honestly, I think this is one of those rare cases where the inspired surpassed the inspiration. Mm-hmm. And I think, well, obviously Treasure of Madre will always stand the test of time. There Will Be Blood is also going to go down as an American classic. For sure, without a doubt.
Definitely.
I mean, I'm glad that, the big thing about it was that No Country for Old Men beat it for Best Picture. Of course I agree with that, because No Country for Old Men is one of the best movies ever made and one of my personal favorites. Yeah. But There Will Be Blood, while not necessarily one of my personal favorites as a movie, will go down as the more beloved one, I think.
I think you're correct.
So I guarantee once they redo the AFI list again, it's going to be there. So, yeah, I personally would choose There Will Be Blood over these two, but, you know, they're both going to stand the test of time and be classics forever and ever. Yep. So, I think that wraps us up.
Next week is one that we've had on the list of verses for a long time. It's finally going down next week. And we're actually going to finish off with quite an awesome one for the end of Oscar-themed verses the week after. So, that being said, enjoy the awards ceremony tonight if you're watching it, or if you've already enjoyed it, and enjoy the rest of the awards season. And we'll see you guys soon. AJ, any parting words?
I drink your milkshake, and we don't need a stinging badges.
Indeed.